Hi there. Now that we have decided on a research topic, figured out a research question, even done an abstract blitz to consolidate some of those sources in one place, it is time for us to actually do a literature review. In other words, read what we have gathered and figure out what other people are saying about the topic we're going to write about. And from this, we are going to develop an hypothesis based on what we review on the literature. So what is a literature review? You have done some preliminary research as you worked on identifying your research topic. As you did this, there were some things that made you think, why is that? And those inquisitiveness led you to the development of research question. As you conducted your preliminary research, you used Abstract Blitz to collect all your sources in one place, but you still don't know why things are happening, nor do you have a clear sense of what research has been done on the specific research question that you are asking. A literature review will give you a sense of what has been written about on your topic and how other scholars have approached the topic. There is no set format for a literature review, but one thing is for sure. It is not a list of he said this and she said that. It is actually a mini standalone essay that critically summarizes and analyzes a specific segment of published body of works that makes a coherent argument that provides a rationale for the proposed research, as well as pointing out the gaps in the literature. Now that we know what a literature review is, let's talk about why we would do one. First, as we discussed earlier, a literature review is done to find out what has been written about in this subject. However, it is also done to identify what has not been written about. A literature review also allows us to develop a general explanation which goes to help us answer why is this happening. In short, it helps us to develop hypotheses to answer our research question. It also helps us to define for ourselves the exact concept of terms and how you might measure those terms. For example, if you are talking about good foreign policy, how do you measure good versus bad, or the different degrees of good? A literature review will tell you how others have gone about measuring this concept. Additionally, it helps us to identify what data is available for you to do your research, how you can go about doing your research in terms of research design, and finally, it allows you to discover how your research may be related to other scholars' work. Now that you have done a literature review, you should have some idea about what your hypothesis is going to look like. So, it is time to develop your hypothesis. What exactly then is a hypothesis? It is a researcher's educated guess that represents the proposed explanation for a specific phenomenon of interest. In other words, it is what you think why the phenomenon contained within your research question is happening. For example, if your research question is about why states become rivals, your hypothesis might be that if two states share a common source of natural resource, they are more likely to become enduring rivals. Please note that like a research question, the hypothesis is also very clear and succinct. A hypothesis should also be able to be turned into an if-then statement. Also note that one hypothesis statement only has one cause and effect. Here are some characteristics of a good hypothesis. First, a hypothesis is an empirical statement. In other words, it is about how the world is, not about how the world ought to be. Being an empirical statement means the variables mentioned in the hypothesis should be measurable. Take a look at the example hypothesis on the screen. Can you measure the independent variable common source of natural resource? Yes. It can be measured as a yes or no variable. Yes, we have a common source of natural resource, or no, they do not. Next, can you measure the dependent variable, the enduring rivalry? Yes, this can also be measured as a yes or no variable. The states are either rivals or they're not. Another characteristic of a good hypothesis is its generality. It should explain a phenomenon of interest in general rather than a particular occurrence of a phenomenon. Just like the Mythbusters, a good hypothesis should be plausible. This means there should be some logical reason for thinking that it might be confirmed. Take another look at the example hypothesis on the screen. Doesn't it make sense two states will fight against each other if they had to share a common petroleum deposit that is located under their borders, even if you did not know a lot about the states themselves? Also, isn't it plausible that this statement might be true no matter what the states are involved, or sometimes it might not be true? Finally, a good hypothesis should be testable or falsifiable, just like a good theory is testable and falsifiable. Look at our example hypothesis again. Can we test it? Yes. We can find out what states share a common source of natural resource and see if these states are rivals. Can we prove our example hypothesis to be false? Also, yes. Once we test to see if those states that share a common source of natural resources are rivals, and if we find that sharing a common source of natural resource has nothing to do with rivalry between states, then the hypothesis has been proven to be false. I hope this video clip was able to inform you about what a literature review is, why one would do one, and characteristics of good hypothesis. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask your instructors.